少了我家40万彩礼。
好，他们现在这个老师一直在找我。
In China, there is a traditional practice known as the bride price. This custom requires the groom's family to pay a certain amount of money to the bride's family before marriage. However, this tradition has led to serious issues. One major problem is that many brides take the money and then disappear, abandoning the marriage. In this case, the bride accepted the bride price but later ran away only to be eventually caught by the groom. What makes this even more shocking is that throughout their marriage, she never once cooked for her husband. Moreover, the only belongings she brought with her when she got married were a bucket and a pot. What kind of societal structure has shaped women like this? Let's take a closer look. In this particular instance, a woman received a bride price of 400,000 yuan, but disappeared just 6 months after the wedding. She told her in-laws she was going to visit her mother, but then suddenly cut off all contact. The groom and his family searched for her at her parental home, but her family refused to take responsibility and claimed they knew nothing about her whereabouts.
在你们眼里觉得应该是花了多少钱就送回去给女方的礼金大概一共是多少
？10老钱还有，那就讲小伙子阿嬷子是你不接受你们怎么样收？
After the wedding, the happy married life the groom had dreamed of never became a reality. His wife spent most of her days either glued to her phone or sleeping, and their relationship was far from harmonious. Since he had borrowed money from his parents to pay the bride price, the financial burden ultimately fell on them as well.
就是那个袋子，2个水桶，2个盘，2个热水瓶。
After extensive searching, the whereabouts of the missing wife were finally discovered. She had been working at a fruit shop run by her uncle, who had even refused interview requests in an attempt to hide her. Determined to confront the situation, the groom's family ultimately decided to go to the fruit shop themselves.
不认识我了吗？你不认识我了吗？
你不是吧？
是的，是的。
The moment she came face to face with her mother-in-law and husband, the wife couldn't hide her shock. Realizing she had been caught, she instinctively chose to run. Without saying a word, she slowly stepped backward, then suddenly bolted toward the restroom and locked the door behind her.
你们家里你们爸爸妈妈大女儿是不是叫你在结婚之后是怎么说辅导的，是怎么那个的？我首先就喊了你三遍，你就不是说你应都没应我，我们辛辛苦苦，讨一个讨儿媳妇，穿的洗地，我花了那么多钱。
In China, some women have been intentionally engaging in bride fraud, repeatedly marrying and divorcing multiple men to collect bride prices. Cases like these have become increasingly common. While the Chinese government recognizes the severity of the issue, it has yet to implement an effective solution. Meanwhile, tensions escalated outside the restroom as the groom's family tried to persuade the wife to come out while she desperately tried to avoid them. Just as the standoff continued, her uncle suddenly appeared, making the situation even more chaotic.
我和你讲啊！讲什么讲？到我这里来吧！你自己凭什么喊得来的？你我不来的就是啊！
是嫁给他的是吧？没跟他一起。
没嫁给你吧？他是12月初9结的婚，是不是？5月初8求来的，我给他1分钱用，你搞笑不？
Eventually, as reporters arrived, the wife was forced to come out of the restroom. However, what she said next was even more shocking. She falsely claimed that she had suffered frequent abuse during the marriage and described her married life as if she had been trapped in a prison. In a bizarre twist, she argued that she never cooked because her husband had never given her any allowance in the 6 months they were married. Even the reporters, who were trying to mediate the situation, were left speechless by the absurdity of it all. The wife kept insisting that she was the victim and repeatedly refused to return the bride price, offering only baseless excuses for why she had run away. Then, all of a sudden, she attempted to escape. As she made her move, the husband grabbed her by the collar to stop her. Instantly, she collapsed onto the ground, dramatically pretending as if she had been assaulted.
对着对我各种吵各种骂，要干嘛的？
借网贷是你吧？几万块钱出去1个月没了是你吧？
当时就当着就是跟别人就是到处在那里说我就是骗这个钱。
但那笔钱是给到谁了？到底？
那钱我也具体我也没有接手，但是我父母跟我提过，而且他们已经陈列出来了，只有那么多钱。
Realizing that any further negotiations were impossible with the wife, who continued to feign ignorance and evade responsibility, the groom's family ultimately decided to take legal action. However, the court's ruling was shocking. Out of the 400,000 yuan bride price, only 100,000 yuan had to be returned. The decision was based solely on the woman's claims, without any solid evidence to support her case. Cases like this highlight how irrational legal rulings continue to emerge in China.
彩礼是不会退还的。
你说说你理由不会退还？
就是跟他赌一种气，然后要是判刑的话，我敢换话的话，那就执行吧。
Here's another case of a bride who ran away after receiving the bride price. She completely ignored her husband's attempts to contact her and hid at her parents' house, only to eventually be caught by the police. As expected, both the bride and her mother refused to take responsibility. Instead, they played the victim, shedding tears and desperately insisting on their innocence.
以后退那些了。
啊？
结果
那爸爸那个意思啊，有证据啊。
你经过哪一个人退的？
他用他给了，他亲自给了，给他的，俺这条闺女噻，俺这条闺女噻，要是给他的话，他都自杀，所以这个钱我就没有给他。他如果这个钱我要是给了他，他都自杀，他眼泪都不过了。
The only thing the bride's mother seemed capable of doing was wailing desperately, much like a starving pig. She adamantly claimed that she had already spent the entire bride price and had no obligation to return it. However, the police had already conducted a thorough investigation before raiding the house. Their findings revealed that not only had the mother and daughter received the bride price, but they had also been collecting a monthly allowance from the husband. Strangely, there was no trace of any withdrawals or transactions showing how the money had been spent. The husband had sent the money to support the family, yet instead of using it, the two women had secretly hoarded it all. Even with the police at their doorstep, the mother and daughter continued to lie without hesitation. Eventually, the officers searched the house and uncovered a bank book, presenting it as undeniable evidence. At that moment, the bride's mother was left speechless. When she finally tried to explain herself, her words were nothing more than illogical excuses with no basis in reality.
你婚友不存在了，见人家婚友，我只让人这个退的彩礼另一个给。
他然后他在俺家侮辱俺的，现在他然后他把侮辱俺的钱，他也能退俺。不在乎这3万多块钱，我就是争了这一口气。
你争这一口气，你不能拿法律当儿戏，
你不能争这一口气违反法律。
Since no compromise could be reached, the daughter refused to accompany the police, using the excuse that she was breastfeeding. In the end, only the wailing mother was arrested and taken into custody. Even during the police investigation, she stubbornly insisted that she could not return the bride price, refusing to take any responsibility for her actions. The police too were taken aback by such an unprecedented situation. Cases like this highlight how many women in China are exploiting bride scams to accumulate wealth, making this a growing social issue. So, how can China put an end to this practice? While government intervention and stricter regulations are desperately needed, authorities seem to be taking a passive stance. Compared to other countries, such cases are extremely rare, making the situation even more alarming. That concludes today's video. What do you think about this issue? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching.